It's 3 in the morning. The house is silent, the world outside is dark, but you are awake. Your mind is racing, replaying conversations, making to-do lists, worrying about the future. You glance at your phone, its cool blue light, a tiny artificial sun in the darkness. You know you shouldn't, but you do. You scroll. An hour passes. Desperation sets in. You have a big day tomorrow. You need to sleep. Why is it so hard? You might blame your stress, your diet, the coffee you had this afternoon. You might think you have a disorder, that you're somehow broken. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the very world we've built? What if our idea of a perfect, uninterrupted 8-hour slumber is not a biological necessity, but a modern invention? And what if, in our relentless quest to achieve it, we have declared a secret, unwinnable war on the very nature of our own bodies? This is the hidden history of why you can't sleep. For our ancestors, for nearly all of human history, the night was a different country. It was not a void to be conquered or an inconvenience to be slept through. It was a vast, mysterious, and often dangerous expanse. When the sun went down, the world was plunged into a profound, inky blackness, a darkness most of us can no longer even imagine. The primary sources of light were the moon, the stars, and the flickering, precious flame of a fire. And in this world of deep darkness, our ancestors slept in a way that would seem utterly alien to us today. They didn't sleep in one solid 8-hour block. They had 2 sleeps. This isn't speculation, this is a fact, rediscovered by the historian Roger Eckrich, who spent years combing through hundreds of historical documents, diaries, medical texts, court records, and literature, from Homer's Odyssey to the letters of English peasants. And he found a consistent, remarkable pattern. People would go to bed as darkness fell, perhaps around 9 o'clock. They would sleep for 3 to 4 hours in what they called the first sleep. Then, around midnight, they would wake up. This wasn't insomnia. This wasn't a problem. This was normal. For 1 to 2 hours, they would be awake in a strange, quiet, semi-conscious state they called the watch, or in French, the door veille. Imagine it. The world is utterly silent, save for the crackle of the embers in the hearth. The anxieties of the day have receded, the pressures of the morning are not yet present. It was a time for contemplation, for quiet conversation with a spouse, for prayer, for intimacy. Medical texts from the 16th century advised couples that this was the best time to conceive. Religious manuals offered special prayers designed specifically for this midnight wakefulness. People would read by firelight, mend clothes, or simply lie in bed and let their minds drift, reflecting on the dreams they just had. It was a period of profound peace and creativity, a natural part of the human rhythm. After this waking period, they would go back to bed for their second sleep, which would last until dawn. This segmented sleep wasn't a choice. It was likely our biological default dictated by the natural cycles of light and dark. Without the constant stimulation of artificial light, our bodies responded to the setting sun by producing melatonin, the hormone that brings on sleep. The gentle waking period in the middle of the night was a natural trough between 2 sleep cycles. For thousands of years, this was humanity's slumber. So what happened? If this 2-part sleep was so natural, so universal, where did it go? Why have we completely forgotten it, to the point that waking up at 3 a.m. now sends us into a spiral of anxiety? The answer isn't a single event. It's a story of a slow, creeping invasion, a multi-front war on the night waged by 2 of the most powerful forces of the modern era, light and the clock. The first invader was artificial light. For centuries, the best we could do was a candle or an oil lamp, flickering, smoky, expensive, and a constant fire hazard. But in the late 17th and 18th centuries, cities like Paris and London began to install the first street lamps. Imagine the wonder and the shock. For the first time, city streets were bathed in a steady, reliable glow after dark. The night, once the domain of criminals and shadows, was being pushed back. It was seen as a triumph of civilization over barbarism. But this was just the beginning. The 19th century brought gaslighting, which was brighter, cheaper, and more widespread. The home itself began to change. People could now read, socialize, and work long after the sun had set. The evening was no longer a time for winding down, but a new frontier for activity. The old rhythms were being disrupted. The natural cue for our bodies to prepare for the first sleep was being drowned out by this new artificial daylight. Then came the final, decisive blow. In 1879, Thomas Edison perfected the incandescent light bulb. This wasn't an invention. It was a declaration of war. Edison famously boasted, "We will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles." His goal was nothing less than the total abolition of the night. And he succeeded. The electric light, clean, safe, and brilliant, flooded our homes, our streets, and our workplaces. The last vestiges of true darkness were vanquished. The night became just another part of the day, a blank space to be filled with productivity or entertainment. And with its disappearance, the memory of our ancestral two-part sleep began to fade. But light alone wasn't enough to kill segmented sleep. It needed an enforcer, and that enforcer was the Industrial Revolution and its merciless god, the clock. In the pre-industrial world, time was fluid, governed by the sun and the seasons. People worked from sunrise to sunset. But the factory changed everything. The factory needed workers to be there at a precise time, to work a precise number of hours, and to leave at a precise time. Time was no longer a natural rhythm. It became a commodity, a resource to be measured, managed, and maximized. The factory whistle became the new dawn, its shrill call replacing the gentle light of the sun. This new time discipline was a radical shock to the human system. It demanded a new kind of sleep. You couldn't afford a leisurely 2-hour waking period in the middle of the night if you had to be at the factory gates at 6 a.m. sharp. Sleep had to be consolidated, efficient, crammed into one solid, uninterrupted block. The 8-hour workday, a hard-won victory for labor movements, inadvertently solidified the 8-hour sleep night as the new ideal. Sleep became a functional necessity, a pit stop for the human machine to refuel for the next shift. It was no longer a journey with a quiet, contemplative interlude. It was a race against the clock. By the early 20th century, the cultural memory of segmented sleep had vanished almost entirely. Doctors and medical professionals now living in this new, brightly lit, time-obsessed world began to see the old pattern not as natural, but as a disorder. A patient complaining of waking in the middle of the night was no longer told this was normal. They were diagnosed with a new condition: insomnia. The solution was not to understand this natural waking period, but to suppress it. The age of the sleeping pill began. We started drugging ourselves to achieve an ideal of sleep that was, for most of our history, completely unnatural. This brings us to today, and to your bedroom at 3 in the morning. You are the heir to this hidden history. The war on the night has now escalated into a full-scale digital assault. The light that keeps you awake is no longer the gentle glow of a gas lamp. It's the hyper-stimulating blue light of your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop. This specific wavelength of light is particularly insidious. It directly suppresses the production of melatonin, essentially tricking your brain into thinking it's the middle of the day. That one last check of your email or social media before bed is a direct biological signal to your brain: do not sleep. It is not time. The tyranny of the clock has also morphed. The factory whistle has been replaced by the constant buzz of notifications, the 24/7 news cycle, the pressure to be always available, always productive. The line between work and rest has dissolved. We carry our offices in our pockets. The quiet, reflective space of the door veil, that precious waking period our ancestors enjoyed, has been colonized by anxiety and distraction. We don't lie in bed contemplating our dreams. We lie in bed scrolling through the curated lives of others, or worrying about the email our boss sent at 10 p.m. Our minds are never allowed to be quiet. And so we find ourselves in a profound paradox. We are obsessed with sleep. We buy sleep tracking apps, weighted blankets, white noise machines, and expensive mattresses. We consume articles about sleep hygiene and the perfect bedtime routine. We strive with all our might to achieve that perfect, mythical, uninterrupted 8-hour block. But we are doing it in a world that is fundamentally, structurally, and technologically designed to prevent it. We're trying to force a pre-industrial brain to sleep in an industrial-era pattern,
all while being bombarded by post-industrial technology.
The result is a collective, low-grade exhaustion, a society that romanticizes the hustle, that sees sleep as a necessary evil to be minimized, a sign of weakness. The phrase, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," is worn as a badge of honor. We have forgotten that sleep is not a passive state of inactivity, but a vital, active process of healing, memory consolidation, and mental restoration. We have forgotten that our ancestors had a richer, more flexible relationship with the night. So, what is the solution? We can't smash our light bulbs and go back to living by candlelight. We can't dismantle the time-based economy, but we can change our understanding. The first step is to release ourselves from the tyranny of the 8-hour ideal. Realizing that waking up in the middle of the night isn't necessarily a sign that you're broken, but perhaps a deep ancestral echo of a time when the night was a different country, can be incredibly liberating. It can transform that moment of anxious frustration at 3 a.m. into a moment of acceptance. Perhaps instead of reaching for your phone, you can embrace that quiet wakefulness. Read a book under a dim light, meditate, listen to quiet music, or simply lie in the darkness and let your mind wander, as your ancestors did for thousands of years. The hidden history of sleep reveals a profound truth. We are not machines that need to be shut down and rebooted. We are biological creatures with deep, ancient rhythms that are often at odds with the world we have created. The reason you can't sleep isn't just about what you did today. It's about what we, as a civilization, have done for the last 200 years. We lit up the darkness, we chained ourselves to the clock, and in the process, we forgot how to sleep. Reclaiming our rest might be the quietest but most profound act of rebellion we can undertake in the modern world. It is a journey back, not to the past, but to ourselves. Our modern world is full of hidden histories waiting to be explored. If you'd like to see more, please like this video and subscribe to Ages Unseen. We'll continue to question the concepts we take for granted. Thanks for watching.